Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've also got businessman and activist Adam Brooks and the author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Mark, I'll start with you. What are Mickey Mouse degrees?
Well, the Tories are onto something here, Patrick. These are degrees, I think, unfairly called Mickey Mouse degrees. Actually, I think Walt Disney actually operate a college of their own, so you can literally do a Mickey Mouse degree in America. These are degrees that don't really add to your ability to earn in the workplace. You've highlighted some of them there. So the Conservatives are asserting far better to spend 2 or 3 years learning to be a plumber or an electrician than 2 or 3 years, I don't know, on Mongolian pottery or medieval poetry. And they might be right in this regard, but you hit the nail on the head, Patrick, in your opening remarks. The problem is this: the taxpayer shouldn't be involved at all, really. I mean, you can work out which degrees people fail to pay the money back on when they've had the loan, but I'd much rather leave this to the students and the universities, not for the Office for Students, which has apparently already started to crack down on courses it deems to be low quality. Who are these people? Let students decide what courses they want and pay the whole whack back.
OK, all right, so I'll come back to you on that. But, Adam, do you think that we stigmatise people who go and get a practical trade or go straight into the workplace at 18?
I think there's a lot of snobbery in that. I mean, some of my most successful friends, and I'm talking multi-millionaires, are people that started at 16 or 18 from the bottom, learnt their trade, either stayed with the companies, are now very high up in those companies, or they started their own companies or firms in their 20s. I've got some really successful friends that have worked from nothing. Now, what scares me about universities, I wouldn't want my kids anywhere near them at the moment, with, you know, some of these deranged lecturers and teachers that are spreading so much nonsense, filling their heads, almost indoctrinating them with this left-wing nonsense and woke nonsense. So it would scare me, you know. But we've seen movements of anti-Semitism, anti-capitalism, climate nutters, and everything coming out of these universities, and it's almost like they are spoiled brats.
Okay.
Now, I want my boy, I want him to learn a trade, because I think there's going to be a shortage of tradesmen in the next few years.
Well, I mean, look, that is the argument to it. I mean, Rebecca, why should the taxpayer have to foot the bill for someone who wants to just go and do, you know, some kind of vanity degree, really, which is basically 3 years off at some no-mark university studying absolutely sweet FA, when they could actually be funding them to do something practical?
I think there's lots of reasons. So I did English literature, which is one of the degrees on that list. So apparently my degree should be a Mickey Mouse degree that's scrapped. I think there's lots of different kinds of success. I don't think that going to university to do English literature is the best way to make a lot of money, but it is a good way to be an interesting, perhaps more academically rigorous person. And we need both. We need people who have trades, and we need people who know a lot about the history of literature in this country. So having both is important, but what needs to not happen is that if you take away funding for degrees like history of art, that means that only people who have wealthy parents and who don't need to think, number one, about money, can go and do these things. And we should value learning for learning's sake, and intellectual rigorousness in this country should matter to us. I get that,
but it is the taxpayer who's paying for it. And that's the problem, isn't it? If someone comes out of university with £45,000 worth of debt, the taxpayer has given them that money. Why should
you're bang on right, Patrick. This is the problem. Of course, it might be an extremely worthwhile way to spend 3 years learning about English literature. That's fine. I myself am thinking at some point of taking a master's degree in football, just because I'm interested in football. I'm under no illusions that this is going to turn me into a footballer or a football manager, and I would expect to pay for it myself.
Well, you can't get a student loan for a master's, so you would have to.
No, well, that's what. But I mean, let's say I want to do a BA in football studies. I should pay for it myself. If you want to have that experience, you should pay for it yourself. If the Labour Party win the next election, we're going to cut the voting age to 16. By the time you're 18, you should definitely be determining what sort of educational services you want, and you should be paying for them, possibly on a loan deal, but it doesn't require the Office for Students to get involved in it.
If there's no loan, people won't be able to do it. But realistically, we live a lot longer than we used to, so education should go longer. So for instance, why can't you do a 3-year degree and then do an apprenticeship? We don't need to be treating people like we did when everybody retired
We don't
at
need the
60.
taxpayer to fund
Let's
that.
just throw an umbrella over this policy, because this is now one of several high-profile policies that have hit the headlines so far this election campaign that involve the younger generation. We've got votes for 16-year-olds with Labour. We've got national service with the Tories. We also have this now from the Tories as well, which would affect 18 to, roughly speaking, 22-year-olds when it comes to university degrees. I suppose, Adam, the question is, from what you've seen so far, who do you trust most with our kids?
I don't trust either of them, as I've said many times, but I've got to say, the Conservatives scare me less than Labour. I think this is a good policy because I think it'll start getting the economy going from the bottom up where we need it and get more people in work and more grounded people as well. As you say, some students just go for the jolly up and to get that qualification. It doesn't mean they're going to get a job in anything.
Is this not rectifying a massive mistake that Tony Blair made?
No, I want them to have a jolly up. I think everyone, whether you will go to university or not,
for it.
I don't care. I'm delighted to pay for Jaeger bombs. People need time to grow and develop and change.
We can do that.
That's important.
But then, Rebecca, we can do
It is 3 years of snogging the wrong person and drinking Jaeger bombs. It's good for you. It helps you grow and develop.
I tell you what, individuals can put this on a crowdfunder and you can pay for it.
I would happily pay for somebody to do it. I will pay for my children to do it.
That's fine. You lob your money at that.
But my child shouldn't have better opportunities to have fun because I come.
I don't think I should be forced to pay for the activities that you've just
enunciated. I think you should. I think it makes a better country.
At the age of 18.
I have to pay for people's pensions and things I don't use. Why shouldn't you pay?
Honestly.
Don't you want happy, well-rounded people?
System as well. The idea that the taxpayer should pay for 18-year-olds to go around Jaeger bombing.
I'd rather pay for that than some pensioner with 2 houses.
Is it seriously the argument of the left in Britain at the moment that it's a more worthwhile endeavour to pay for the cannabis consumption of an 18-year-old at Bath Spa University than it is to pay for Marjorie, who's 86, at number 42, who can't turn her flipping heating on?
Not Marjorie. I think Marjorie needs it. But the kind of 2 home-earning pensioner, absolutely. I'd much rather pay for someone's kid to get pissed.
You've just sort of brought up a point there, is that the left would rather universities sort of stay and be busy because they are churning out left-wing students en masse.
So you're saying if you're more educated, you're more likely to be left-wing?
I'm saying universities indoctrinate many students into the left-wing
a lot of these degrees have
thinking.
about 3 contact hours a week, so if they're doing any indoctrination, they're doing a great job.
All right.